All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to those who, to many faces we see here now. You know, many new faces, many old faces. Baruch Hashem. Everyone's feeling well. All right, so we left off in Gimel on Daf Gimel. Maseches Chagiga. Today is Daf Dalet. Yesterday's was Gimel, so we got to do yesterday's first. So fourth line from the top. So we just made a chiluk between somebody who is Shameya of Eino Medaber and Medaber of Eino Shameya. So in terms of they are still obligated, right, in the Simcha, in Shabbos Simcha, but they're pater when it comes to a Riyah, to the Olas Riyah. So Ma'ishna Lin Riyah the Ptiri. What's the reason why when it comes to the four lines to the top on Gimel Amud Aleph? What's the reason why when it comes to the Riyah the Ptiri? Ma'ishna Lin Simcha the Mechayvi, but when it comes to the Simcha Mechayv. So Leinian Riyah, Gama Riyah Mehakel. So when it comes to Riyah, they learn Gzeir Shava from Hakel, right? Hakel was the mitzvah for everyone to congregate Shmini Atzeres post Shemitah, and they would read. I think the king, right, with the Nasi, right, the king, he would read, right, Mishnah Torah in the Azara. So that was the mitzvah. So we learned Gzeir Shava from Hakel. It says over there, so it says over there, go ahead and gather the men and the women and the children. Right now, sort of ignore the fact that the women are chayiv, because even though if we're comparing the two, women actually are pater, as we saw in a Mishnah when it comes to the Riyah. But the pasuk says it says there, it says over there when they all come to Lirois. We got to confirm the psukim. Thank you. So it says that the pasuk before, right, which is Devarim Lamed Aleph Yud Aleph, right? It says V'kol Yisrael Leiraos is Pnei Hashem Lokecha B'makom. Right? We're going to learn Leiraos to Leiros. They're both right. The Hasamanel and over there. So where do we know? It says D'chsiv Laman Yishmu. Laman Yilmadu. We're also going to do a play on the word of Yilmadu in order that they should hear. That was back on pasuk Gimel, and also that they will learn. They will hear and they will learn. Betanya Laman Yishmu Paral Medaber Ve'ena Shameya V'lan Yilmadu Paral Shameya Ve'ena Medaber. So we learn over there Yishmu and Yilmadu to exclude somebody, right, who hears but can't talk, or someone who talks and cannot hear. So those people are pater from coming to the hakel because you have to be able to hear, right, and speak, right, and therefore in such a case, and since they're pater from hakel, they're also going to be pater from the riyah. So the memra dechila mishtay like damar. So you can tell me, right, that someone is not able to go ahead and to what's it called? If they're not able to go ahead and talk, right, they can't learn. Rabbi Bnei Barte, Rabbi Yechanan ben Gud Gadna. So there was two people who were basically mutes. They weren't able to speak, and they lived in the town of Rebbe, who's the son of either the Barte the Rabbi Yechanan, right, who was either the son of the daughter of Yechanan and Agunan. Some say it was Bnei Achte Rabbi Yechanan. Right, and some say it was the son. They were the sons of the sister of Rabbi Yechanan. Every time Rabbi go to the base manager, they would go ahead and sit by. They would nod their heads, right, and so basically they listen to what was going on, right. And they would move their lips. And Rabbi davened for them. Right? He was mavak that they should be healed, they should speak. And they were healed miraculously. They were healed. They were able to speak. And what happened? And they were, they knew Kol Torah Kula, right? They knew, halachas and brises and sifris, and they knew everything was going on. So even though they couldn't speak, so you see that someone who cannot speak is able to learn, right? So how is being able to learn exclude someone who can't go ahead and speak? Samar Zutra, Sakaribe, Laman, Yilamedu. Right, in order so they will teach, not yilamdu that they will learn. Rather, they will teach. So therefore, since they couldn't speak, they can't teach. Therefore, they're pater from hakel. If you're pater from hakel, then you're also pater when it comes to the riyah. So Rav Ashi Amar Savada Laman Yilamedu. right? No, you have to say that that's the case. Why? And someone who basically who can't go ahead and speak, right? So he can't learn. And also someone who can't hear can't speak. Right? That we can only from someone who can't hear. If someone who can't hear, right? Then he can't learn, and therefore, if he can't learn, then obviously, so they're excluded from Pashtus, someone who can't speak or someone who can't hear. So that would come from somebody who basically, can't hear. Someone who can't hear or someone who can't learn. Rather, the drasha is that someone who can't teach. So therefore, someone who can't hear and can't speak, or someone who can't speak because he's unable to go ahead and teach. Therefore, that person is pater from Hakel, and therefore, since we say that person is pater from Hakel, he's also pater from Riyah because those two are connected through a Gzeira Shava. Fine. Omar Rabbi Tamchun Cheresh ba'ozno achas pater min Riyah. Someone who's deaf in one ear is pater min Riyah. Shnei Amar Pasuk says Baznehem. It says over there Baznehem. You just found the pasuk, right? It says Baznehem. Right. So it says they say right in their ears, right? That was the Devarim Lamed Alf Yud Alf, right? That was the pasuk before. So it says Shnav Baznehem, which is said right for Hakav. Hi Baznehem, so Gemara says, don't you need for something else? Baznehem B'Kul Yisrael. Right, he has to be in the ears of all Yisrael. So how mineged Klal Yisrael nafka? What do you mean? That's from mineged Klal Yisrael. It says when you do this mineged, right, from in front of from Yisrael. So you right. It doesn't have, originally we thought Baznehem just means that people have to hear you, have to be close enough. But we already know that for the pasuk of mineged Klal Yisrael nafka. So mineged Klal Yisrael, if it was from that pasuk mineged Klal Yisrael, I would have thought. Even though they didn't hear. In other words, it's so large, it's so far away they can't hear, but it's neged, they can see it. So Kasar Rachmana, therefore it says Bazneim, right? Right, who's the Shemir? Right, therefore it says the word that therefore it says what's it called? It says Bazneim in order that they should be able to hear. So Ahu Milaman Yishmu Nafka. So he says, no, that's from other words. It says Laman Yishmu, that tells us they can hear. So if we already know they have to hear and they have to be facing them. So what does Bazneim do? Bazneim must be that both their ears must be able to hear. And Omar Rabbi Tamchum, another thing that Rabbi Tamchum says, Chiger the ragla achas pater min Riyah. One who is a lame, right, in one of his legs is pater min Riyah. Shneimar regal, right, shlosh regal, right, 3 times. So regal playing the words. Regal also means foot. Isn't regal means somebody who doesn't have 2 feet. Let's say someone who's walking on with a peg, right? So someone has a wooden leg, that's ahumi pamim nafka, right? That's we learned for the word pamim. The Tanya in the Bryce is pamim, ain't pamim el regal, right? The word pamim also means feet. Somewhere it says timasena regel ragle ani pamei dalim. So it says over there, right? The feet will trample on, and the ani pamei dalim, right? The feet of the poor people, right? So the feet of the poor people. So you see the word pamim, right, means also feet. So therefore, it says, shalosh pamim and shalosh regolim as both to exclude somebody with a wooden foot or with a peg, and also somebody who was limp on one of his legs. Then further it says, Ma yofu pamecha benalim bas nadiv. So the pasuk says, where's the ballad? No, Shir Shirim. So it says over there, right, that how lovely, right, basically are the feet of the Bas Nadiv, those who are Bas Nadiv, I guess the daughters of those who are giving people. And speaking of this pasuk, Darash Rava, my pasuk mean Ma Yafu Pamayich Benalim Bas Nadiv. So what does the pasuk mean? Ma Noim Ragleim Shal Yisrael. So how are how pleasant are the feet of Yisrael? So Pshasha and L'Regel, when they're L'Regel Bas Nadiv, when it says Bas Nadiv, is Bito Shel Avram Avinu Shenikra Nadiv. Right, it's referring to the daughter, right, or the children of Avram Avinu, who is called Nadiv. Shneimar Pasuk says Nadivei Amim Nesfu Am Elokei Avram. So it says that the people gather, right, the nation of the God of Avram. So Elokei Avram, Elokei Yitzchak Yaakov. So he was the first one who he was the beginning. So therefore, the pasuk refers to when they're Ola Regel, they call them basically the descendants and the children coming from Avram Avinu. And Amar, so now comes another statement of Rabbi Tanchum. So Amar Rav Kana Dorish Rav Nasan Ba Minyumi Mishum Rabbi Tanchum. My dechseus basamin bahaborek ein bo mayim. It says so there the pit was empty and there was no water. But the fact it says that the pit was empty, don't already know that there was no water? It's empty. So either. Right? Rather, right. Rashi sound chumash, right? But rather, right, there was no water, but there was snakes and scorpions that were in that pit. Taner Rabbanan, second last skinny line. Taner Rabbanan, Ma'aser Rabbi Yechanan, Ben Rukav Rabbi Elazar. Take out the Ben, right? So they went to go ahead and greet Rabbi Yeshua Emukim. So Amar Lehem. So he saw them coming over. So Rabbi Yeshua said to them, "No, what are they talking about in the Beis Medrash today?" So Amru Lo, so they said to him, so they said, right, we're your Talmidim, and we drink from you, right? From your waters we drink. We're not here to teach you. You're here to teach us. So what he's saying, right? It can't be that there's no chiddush in the Beis Medrash. The Shabbos shall mi haisa. So he says, whose Shabbos was it? Whose turn, right? Whose turn was it to be the to give shir on Shabbos? So Shabbos shall Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah haisa. It was a Shabbos Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Ubama haisa hagad hayim. What he's speaking about? They were like Parshas Hakil. He spoke Parshas Hakil Mar Darsh. But what he darshan there? So Hakil sa'amba nashim ataf. So he says, "There gather the people, the men, the women, the children." So iman nashim ba'ilumod. So nashim bos lishma. So the men come to learn, and then the women come to hear. So taf lama boy, right? And so why do the children come? Kadei lita in schar lemaveh. So to go ahead and give reward, even though they can't hear, they can't listen. Rather, it's to give reward to those who go ahead and bring them there. So therefore, that was the reason why they're brought. So Amar Lahem. So he finally basically told Rabbi Yeshua what they said in the Beis Medrash. So he said, "Amar Lahem, Margilias Taiva Haisa B'Yadechem V'Kashel Na'avda Mimen." I understand it was such a beautiful pearl, right? You had to be maybe forced me out of you. You guys didn't want to tell me at first. I had to say, "Who Shabbos was it? What were you guys discussing?" Right? Only then did you tell me. And furthermore, furthermore, darshan as Hashem hamarta hayom, right? So it says there, right? And one pasuk says, "And Hashem hamarta hayom," right? He blessed them, he praised them, right? Right? He praised them, as Rashi points out, right? The another pasuk says, "Hashem hamrecha hayom," right? And so as Hashem hamarta hayom, that you praised Hashem is the first pasuk. The second pasuk is Hashem praised you. So I remember Kadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael atem asituni chativa achas be'elo. You have made me one in the world, right? Unique in the world. So too, I'll make you guys unique and one. Pasuk says Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, because you declare Hashema. You say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. You declare me one with nobody else. And I'll make you unique and one in this world. As the pasuk says, Umi Ka'amcha Yisrael Goyacha Ba'aretz, who is like you, Yisrael, only one nation. You guys are also one and unique. So therefore, each one is unique. V'yachu Pasach v'Darash. And then he, this is also, I guess, continue, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So he also can to darshan. It says, Divrei Chachamim Kedarvonos. So it says over there that the words of the Chamim are like darvonos, which are like these long, I guess, sort of like sticks with like pokers at the end. They used to go ahead and in order to get the animals to move in the right area, right? Cattle prod, right? So it says over there, and so it says the words of Chamim were like these darvonos, and also kamashos ben tuos, also like nails, right, that are banged in, right, from nizam given from one shepherd. Now, first of all, why is it compared to this darvan, right? To this cattle prodders? Just like over there, right? That this cattle prodder, this thing that moves the animal, right? It moves the animals to the area which will bring them life to tell them where to go. So too, the words of the Torah bring one from Darchei Misa to Darchei Chaim. And after so in Imai Darchan shall Zemetaltel after Vitametalton. So if that's the case, so these are only they only have a certain lifespan, right? They have a certain lifespan for them to go ahead and they don't last forever. They're metaltlin, right? They move objects. So too, Torah, God forbid, someone can claim that they are also a metaltlin. So Tamalar, the verse says, Misbaros, right? Basically, it says, therefore, they're like nails, right? They're like nails. So when you put in a nail, right, nails don't increase; it only decreases it, right? It makes it, sort of compacts it down, and it stays in. It might be permanent, but it diminishes it. So maybe you say Divrei Torah diminishes a person. Tamalaymar Netuim. Therefore, it says Netuim. It's planted, right? The words are planted. And Marti is the Rava after Torah, right? So then, just like when you plant it grows fruitful and multiplies. So over there, Divrei Torah grows fruitful and multiplies. And that says Balei Asufos, right? They gather in groups, right? Asifos, right? They gather in groups. Those are the Chachamim that sit in groups. The Oiskim b'Torah and the Oiskim b'Torah halu. So halu matamim, halu matarim. Some say that when they deal with cases, some say tomei, some say tor, halu oisrim, halu matirim. Some say aster, some say mutter, halu paislin, halu machshirim. Some say apostle, others say kasher. So Shema Yomer Adam Heichani Lama Torah Miatas. Maybe someone's going to say, hey, it's so confusing. They say mutter, aser, kasher, apostle, right? So maybe first, hey, person can say miata. The verse says, Tamalemar Kulam Nastim Royecha. Therefore, the pasuk says, all of it was given from one shepherd, right? All of it came. It's not so confusing. All comes from one source, right? Kelecha Nastim, right? Right? It says Hashem one God. He went ahead and he gave it, and he gave it over to one person, right? He gave it to the Moshe Rabbeinu, spoke it over, and Amran mipi Adon, right? Mipi Adon, Kol Amasim Baruch Hu. So he says everything was said basically from one person, right? Baruch Hu Dechsi Vaydaber Elokim as Kol Hadvarim Ha'ela. So he said all these things, all these matters were given over to Moshe Rabbeinu, given over. So aparkesas, right? So make it like aparkesas, like I guess a mill. When you go ahead, I appreciate it, right? So I'm not here to mispronounce words. There's none the kudos there. Yeah. So it says over here. So too. That I guess in the mill when it all gets gathered together, it all gets put together and the seed and it comes through. Only the proper parts come through it. So too all the Torah. There's a lot of Torah, but you have to sort of gather it together and then let it go down, right? So therefore you make your ears just like this. Afar Kesses. Maybe and also get it's the taich over here is a mill hopper, but it's something that's when they a mill hopper.
I don't know what that is.
It's like a
Eddie, he's explaining it in the back.
Eddie, when you ground the grain, it's where the grain goes into.
It all goes in, funnels it in.
It's like a funnel. It's like a funnel.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Funnels it in, and then it comes through. So too, all the Torah is funneled in, and then you have to discern in terms of what is the way to go. Right. So therefore you maybe. Right? Then you go ahead and you get a heart that can differentiate, right, between the words that say tar, v'esdivre oisiv, v'esdivre matirin, v'esdivre paislev, v'esdivre machshirim, right? And all these matters. In other words, you discern and you go ahead and you get all the facts in place, and therefore. So the Torah tells you that you take everything together and then you discern from there, or the chamim, or the posek, or the psak halacha. You go that way. Right, so they said because these are all drushes from Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who basically also was able to paskin for his generation and tell them how to learn, right? So therefore, there was no, any generation that he lived in was not a poor generation, right? It was not one of orphans. So Gemara says, so why didn't they tell him right away? Why were they withholding from him this drasha, right? Going back to the case. We had the case when they went to greet Rabbi Yeshua, and he says, oh, what'd you guys learn? And he says, oh, no, you're our teacher. He says, oh, who's Shabbos? So he had to sort of dig to get all these, these drashas. So what was the reason for that, right? So because of Ma'aseh Shaya, the time of the Ma'aseh Rabbi Yasi ben Dermaskis. They want to go ahead and greet Rabbi Elazar from Lut. What was the chizn especially today? So they told him, Nimnu v'gamru. So we decided, we came there, all of a sudden we got together and we paskined Ammon and Moab, Masri Ma'aser Ani b'Shvis. We came up with a big chiddush, the lands of Ammon and Moab, right? Which is I guess the other side where they conquered originally when they were from Oila from Mitzrayim, but they didn't have it for the Bayis Sheni. So there's a suffix in terms of the doubt as to what to do with the land in terms of Shemitah, is a part of it, so is it not. So we decided that even in the 7th year, the poor people should not miss out, and therefore you should go ahead and give Meiser Ani during Shemitah. So So he said to them, Yaisi Pashi Yadecha, Yaisi, stick out your hands. Kibel Enecha Pashi.
During Shemitah, all the produce is hefker.
It's saying it's not Shemitah.
So it's not Shemitah. Outside of Israel. So the lands of Ammon and Moab.
The question was,
is it Kedushas Eretz Yisrael or not?
Meiser Ani or Meiser Sheni? Is it like Mitzrayim or like Babel? That was the question.
Right. So they said
the Shemitah doesn't apply. Yeah.
But they didn't treat it like Eretz Yisrael.
Right.
And when it comes to, and therefore on the behalf of the poor people, they treat it like Chutz La'aretz in order that the poor people should have Meiser Ani. So he said, stick out your hand. Pasha Yadecha Yosi, stick out your hand. The Kibel Enecha, right? And be makabel for your eyes to go ahead and basically be blind. You did wrong there, Yosi. So Pasha Yada v'Kibel Enough, right? That he stuck out his hands and his eyes darkened, right? So he was wrong. Why did he do this? So Bachar Omar, so Rabbi Elazar, who made him like this, said, right? The Sod Hashem, right? The secret of the Torah of Hashem is to those who fear him, those who fear him, and his covenant, his bris is La'odiyam, right? To inform them. In other words, basically he's saying that you got, so right. So he says the reason why he punished him, so to speak, and even though he was the correct in halacha, this is the halacha. So go tell your friends in the base medrash. It wasn't you guys who decided this. Don't think that you're mechadish this. I heard from Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, Sheshamu Mirabba, the Rabbi who heard from his Rebbe, who is Rebbe from Rebbe. Hilchas L'Moshe Sinai. It's a halacha L'Moshe Sinai. Ammon and Moab, the lands of Ammon and Moab, Meiser Ani b'Shvis, right? You take Meiser Ani during Shvis. Matam. So what's the reason? So Harbe Krachim Kivshu Eili Mitzrayim, Kivshu Eili Bavel. Right, there are many lands that those who came out from Mitzrayim they conquered, but when they were sent out into exile again, and when they came back, those were Ole Bavel. When they came up, the people came back from Bavel to go ahead and reconquer itself. Ole Bavel didn't conquer that land because the kedusha of the land was only while they were living here. But once they went to exile, it lost its kedusha. So therefore, when they came back, it was only the lands that they reconquered had the kedusha. But the original lands that were only under the Ole Mitzrayim, but not under the Ole Bavel, did not have the same kedusha. And therefore, they said, you know what? Let them go ahead and at least go ahead and give Meiser Ani from those areas for the sake of the poor people.
So we're talking about like Damascus, because that's where this guy was from.
Well, you would know. So he was only referred to the lands of Ammon and Moab.
Ammon and Moab is in the south.
Only those lands, not the other lands, not all lands, just the lands of Ammon and Moab. So those areas, in order they should get. So he says, Satana, so he was very upset So the reason why he was upset and he blinded him was because he was upset with the fact that they basically tried to take credit for what was halacha Moshe Sinai. However, Tana after his, I guess Rabbi Elazar, his mind became more at ease. He basically gave him a little bracha that his eyes should be healed to go back to the original were. They turned back. So therefore, they didn't want to say over misinform something from the base matters to Rabbi Yeshua, because then they would be subject to a blindness. So Tana Rabbanan, last skinny line, Ezu Shaita. What is a Shaita? So we discussed what you're talking about. Shaita. So we talked to the Mishnah, right? The Mishnah said, so who is a Shaita, right? A deranged individual. So one who goes ahead and goes out at night alone, right? You got to be crazy, right? Or he sleeps in the base of kvaros, or he tears his clothing for no reason. So Itmar, who is Torah Rav Huna Amar Achu Kulam Vasachas. He has to do all these things. That's Rav Huna Shita. And Rabbi Yechon Amar Afilu Achas Man. Even doing one of these is nonsensible. Person's nonsensible. He's a shaita. He's deranged. So what's the case? So even if he does all of them right in an abnormal way, so Afilu B'chadanami, he should only be one of them. I didn't do all of them. And if he didn't do it all in a crazy way, in other words, maybe there was some sort of reasoning behind it, Afilu Kulanamilo, then he should also not, not be considered crazy. So right? Maybe he does it, but it doesn't appear to be a reason, right? Someone says he sleeps in the basic kfaros, but they heard that okay, if you sleep in the basic kfaros, I'll give you $1 million. Okay, he's not crazy for sleeping in basic kfaros. He wants $1 million. All right, that makes sense.
You want to be cool.
Right?
It's crazy for me.
Yeah, so crazy. Right. So the question is, so maybe even if it didn't appear. Maybe even if it didn't appear to be derech shtus, maybe he's sleeping in the basic kfaros because he wants the ruach hatuma to come upon him. So basically, maybe he'll be able to deal with sorcery or shaitim and stuff like that. The one who goes out at night, maybe he'll say over there that he has some sort of like disease or something that he needs to go ahead and walk off and get the fresh air, right? You get the croup, you got to take the kid out in the freezing cold, right? He tears his clothes. So say he was literally thinking about something else, he wasn't really even paying attention. He was, right? So that's why he tore it. But however, the Avdina Lakulu, like he does all of them, right? It's like a person, or not, like an animal that gores a donkey, a camel, and another ox, even though each did it, one of them each one, not 3 times or any of them. So therefore, it's considered to be like a muad, even though each one only did it once. So over here, it doesn't have to do anything, 3 times to be a muad, right? Some muad is something which is, normal. It's normal behavior. So the person is normally, is deranged. They consider him deranged. So if you just do each of these things, he would be considered to be a deranged individual. Amar Papa, Ishmael Rav Huna Hadetanya, had Rav Huna, right? Now Rav Huna was the one who said you have to do all 3. Had he heard this brisa, right? Havi other be. What was a shot? Somebody who basically he's ma'abed, he destroys, right? Anything that's given to him, then he would have been chayzer. So in other words, because this brisa says you don't need all 3. You don't need someone to be lama b'sek faros, right? You don't need them. So Ibailu Kiavi Hadarbe when he was chayzer. Does it mean Does it mean that he would be chayzer from the part of one who tears his clothing? In other words, one who tears his clothing, right, is similar to one who destroys his stuff, right? So maybe he was chayzer from that. In other words, that still had to be, but that didn't have to be. If that was done alone, that didn't have to have lana b'sek faros and to go out at night alone, right? Maybe he was chayzer from all of them, so take. Does not give an answer as to what he would have been chayzer had he heard that brisa. Fine. Then we said, who else is patur from the korban riyah? The eilas riyah was the tumtum androgynous, right? Tumtum is a person who is not clear as to which male or female genitalia, right, they have, so we don't know what they are. And androgynous person has both. So Tanur Rabbanan Zachar, So it says a male lahait says an ashim, zechurcha, and then it says so that excludes women, and then it says zechurcha lahait say matuda andrigidus, right, to exclude both the tuda andrigidus, and kol zechurcha, and when it says kol zechurcha, the rabbi says aktan to include the ktanim. So let's see this brayso. So zachar, it says over there lahait says an ashim. Why do you need a pasuk? Right, right, it's a mitzvah seishazan grama, right? Something, it's a time-bound mitzvah, and we know that women are not bound by time by mitzvahs such as that, such as let's say tefillin, right, or other mitzvahs or tzitzis, right? These are time-bound mitzvahs. So therefore, this is also right. You come, during the holiday, so since you're commanded to come for the holiday, that's a time-bound mitzvah. So no, we still need the drasha. Why? We said over there in the midst of Hakel, we said call all the men, women, and children. So maybe we had the Gzera Shava before between Ria to learn about by somebody who's pater, right, who can speak in a Medaber or Medaber in a Shemaya. So we learned that. Maybe we would also learn that Nashim are Chayavos when it comes to the mitzvah of the Ria. So therefore, just like over there, women are obligated. So over here, women are obligated. Therefore, there comes a drasha of Zachar Nashim. In Amar we said Zechurcha laitzi tudu andrigus, right, to exclude a tudu andrigus. So bish lamandrigus eats. I understand when you need a drasha to exclude andrigus. Sakamina hoil the east late sad zachrus. Since an androgynous has both male and female genitalia, so maybe you say, well, he's part male, and therefore the part male should be obligated to go the chayim. So kamash malon. Therefore, we learn from there that it's pater, right? Therefore, we see over here that androgynous is not both a male and female. Rather, right? Get a lot of this. There's actually three genders, right? I know nowadays you can't believe there's actually three genders, right? Yeah. So we see over here that it's briefly answer because it's not man and woman, because there's man and woman, then there's a side to say, since you're part man, you're also obligated. So it's briefly asma, and therefore pater from the Joshua. Elo tumtum, but when it comes to tumtum, sveiku should be a suffix. So right? We don't have psukim to come exclude sveikus. So why would you need a pasuk to come darshan? Right, if someone is a suffix because he's a tumtum, right? He has, let's say, skin over, over the genital area. We don't know what's underneath, male or female.
You can explain him to one eye or one leg.
No, but this is different. This is gender. We don't know. Right, but over there, but that wasn't a suffix. Over there was just no, because but the person isn't a suffix, right? The psukim darshan say this person is pater. Right, because the pasuk is pater, but over here, this person, we're a suffix as to what he is, right? We're not a suffix what a person with one ear is. It just happens to be by technicality, a person who can only hear out of one ear, you're pater. But it wasn't because it was a suffix before. Over here, a tumtum is an actual suffix, right? But we don't know, is it a man or is it a female, right? We don't know what he is, right? So call the mute sveka. So doing a positive exclusive space. No. So we're talking about a person, I guess, who his beitzav, right? His testicles are outside. Those can be seen, but it's unclear. Right. Shagid Talmud, right? But his Zachris, right? I'm trying to think of the right word, right? Shahagid Talmud, right? Rashi says, right? Yeah, his member is hidden inside the Havadeh Zachru. Hilkach, since he's most probably male, because right he does have his testicles, which are appear on the outside. So therefore, you need a pasuk to come exclude. His corona is hidden. Yes. Amar.
He has a mask.
Amar. Calls the churcha the rabbis is like time. Then we said calls the churcha the rabbis to include the katan to minors. I vatran chutz mechershed the katan. Right. It says over there except chershed the katan. So we see over here. So you want to include katanim for the mitzvah of to include the mitzvah of Riyah. Our mission says they're pater. What do you mean they're included, right? So right? One is the kan who has arrived to the age of educating them. The other is too young to educate. So he said, So Kaddish Chinuch Derabanan who says Derabanan. So what's the Ein Echanami? But yes, Ein Echanami. It's not a Deraisa, right? Now, anything that's written in the Torah, the pasuk is brought for this specific person. You can't say it's a Deraisa, but we know that the mitzvah of Chinuch, right over here, according to the Gemara, that which is obligated on the father is only Derabanan, and therefore the pasuk is a Smachla B'Alma. If that's the case, if the pasuk is only on a smach, that's not brought for this reason. It's ve'elo krol l'mayasa, right? So if that's the case, what's the pasuk? What do we do with the pasuk, right? Look at the acherim, right? So kol zechorcha is tal acherim. The acherim, I mean, like the acherim say, I guess the Tanya we learn in the Brayso acherim. I mean, hamakametz v'amatzarev nechayshesh v'aborsi. One who goes ahead and he's mekametz. So a person, his job is to be mekametz, I guess. Gather fertilizer. He's picked up, he picks up after dogs or animals. One who works with a copper, a borsi, one a tanner, right? So all these three, the three things are people that stink, right? Borsi, Paturi Minaria, they're part of Minaria. Pasuk says, "Kol zechurcha," right? All right. So Kol zechurcha, it says over there, right? All the males, someone who can go ahead and go with others. But these people, right, they can't get in a car with anybody else. They can't, because they stink, right? They can't get an elevator with anybody else. They can't be close proximity. So therefore, since these people stink, they're actually pater from, according to the Chayrim, they are pater from bringing olasria. Fine. Then we said nashim v'avadim she'enim b'shucharim. Then we said women and avadim that were not freed. So bishlam nashim. I understand why women are pater, because we learn the pasuk of zacharim. There are zachar. Ela avadim minela, but avadim I know this. Huda Amar Kal pasuk says el pnei ha'adon Hashem, right in front of the master of Hashem. Mishin ela adon echad. Only someone who has one master. You have only adon Hashem. Only Hashem is your adon, but not your owner, right? Your slave, right? Your owner and Hashem. This is excluding Eved who has another acher. So lama likra. Wait, but why do you need a pasuk anyways? Let's see. Any mitzvah that a woman is obligated to do, then also an Eved is also chayiv ba. However, a mitzvah that a woman is not obligated, so Tigaber la misha, right? So it says, if that's the case, why don't we learn over here la from isha, right? It says la, all right, was it right now? So la, right? So why don't you learn this? Oh, it doesn't mean a full Eved. Full Eved, you don't need a pasuk. Eved is just like a nashim and pat. Over here, we're talking about, like we originally saw, right? We had this first in Daf Beis, somebody who was an Eved, i.e., he was owned by two brothers or owned by two partners, one of them freed and one of them not. So he is half and half. Such a person is pater. And dikanami, Diktani says over there, nashim v'avadim she'enim b'shuchrarim. It says over there, women and slaves that are not free. Now, my she'enim b'shuchrarim, what's this strange lashon of slaves that are not free? If it means they're not freed at all, so at least they avadim. Just say avadim. Just say servants. We know that since they're avadim, they're slaves, right? They're not owned by. They're not freed. They're slaves, right? You just call them slaves, right? So why call them slaves that weren't freed? So that's dama. Ella lav she'enim b'shucharim legamri means they weren't completely freed. Well, mind you, and who is that? That refers to somebody who is a chatzi eved and a chatzi ben charim. Fine. Then we said v'achiger v'asuma v'achayla v'azaken. Continuing quoting from the Mishnah, so it says the person who's lame or blind or sick or zaken. So Tarnabanan says regalim, shlosh regalim, prat lebali kavin. Exclude somebody who basically has a wooden foot. So davar acher regalim prat lechiger, someone who is a lame, ulachayla, ulasuma ulazaken, sheina yachol la'alais. So it says there to exclude someone who is lame or who's sick, who's blind, who's old, or he can't go la'alas barak. He can't go up, on his feet. And who does that refer to? Someone who can't go at his feet. Does that include? To include, turn the page, mifaneki, right? A person who's mifanekes, right? A person who's spoiled, a person who's very delicate. The pasuk says, right? They can't, over there, right? As Rashi points out, right? You can't go barefoot. Right? You can't go wear shoes in harabais, right? So there, and this person can't go walk around barefoot, right? It's too gross, too disgusting. So such a person would be pater. See, the pasuk says, "Kisavoli leira ois Panai, mi bikesh zos miyadchem, remois chaserim. So it says, when he come to appear before me, right? Came to my to my chutzner, right? To my to my courtyards, right? To my chutzner. So those people who come are only people who I guess people who come to go up, and I guess they're able to go all the way up to be in front of Hashem and not to be barefoot. Tana ha'arel va'atame p'turim min ha'ariyah. So an arel, a person who is uncircumcised, let's say a person who's halachically allowed to be an arel, even somebody, let's say, his two brothers or three brothers, machlokes, 2 or 3, right, died during circumcision, right? So therefore there's a chazaka that this family will die if you remove the arel. So therefore their foreskin remains, or a person who's tummy, they're pater min ha'ariyah. So bi shlama tamei. I understand a person who's tummy. The pasuk says vasa shama vesim shama. A person who's tummy, it says when you go over there, you enter into the mikdash and then you offer your korban. So kol sheishav bia yeshav ba'ava. Whoever is allowed to enter is allowed to go ahead and offer. But a person who can't enter, i.e., someone who's tummy, right? So he can't be offered. So he's pater from the riyah. Makes sense. He's tummy. But how do you know that's Hamani? Who's this? Rabbi Kiva. It's the opinion of Rabbi Kiva. He actually learns, he compares Arel to time when it comes to another mitzvah. The tiny learned in Brisa, Rabbi Kiva Omer, it says ish ish. The pasuk says over there, it says ish ish. When it comes to by the Kohanim, it says ish ish. The rabbis is Arel. So it says a Kohen is an Arel, right? He is included, right? So ish ish means there Aaron, who's Arel, right? So it says the rabbis Arel that he is like a tamei, right? So that he's not allowed to go ahead and eat truma if he's a kohen, right? So an arel is just like a tamei, and therefore an arel is just like a tamei is pater from the riyah. So to an arel is pater from the riyah. So Torah about and tamei pater mina riyah. Whoever is allowed to go ahead and enter, he's also one who's obligated to go ahead and bring the korban to the riyah. But kol she'einu via einu bava. And who also is not involved in the via, he can't enter to the mikdash because tamei also he's not ava. And Rabbi Yechon ben Dava Omer Mishum Rabbi Yehuda Suma be'achas meina pater min hariyah. Also, a person who's blind in one eye is pater min hariyah. Shnamar, the pasuk says, right? So it says year, as the pasuk says, Shnamar, right? Yera'eh will be seen, right? It's referring to Hashem, right? Will be seen, right? It's referring to that, right? Shamar Yera, so Yera Kaderch Shabalira is Kach Baliros. Just like one comes to see, so too one is seen. And so Baliros B'Shteinov, Afliros B'Shteinov. So therefore, so too a person is seen by, or he sees with 2 eyes, so too he should be seen with 2 eyes. So therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right, is only to be seen by one with 2 eyes, because it says Hashem will be seen. So therefore, when he sees, he's only referring to someone who has two working eyes. If you only don't have 2 working eyes, then you would be pater. According the shita, you'd be pater from the OS3. Now, Rav Huna kimati laikra yira bachi. When he got to this pasuk of darshaning yira yira, he would cry. So Omar Evet Sharabah Masapa Lira L'Roiso. Right, Yisrachik Yimenu, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, all he wants to do is be seen by his people, right? And nevertheless, he distances himself. The pasuk says, "Kisavo le'rois panai mi bikesh zos miyadchem ramos chatzera." Right, so it says, when he come to before me, right? That's all he wanted, right? To be see from his hands, right? And then you go ahead and you destroy his his chatzeros, right? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he desires that. Nevertheless, he was forced. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was forced to destroy the courtyards that we come to be close to them. And more now, the Gemara brings more psukim where people cried and they from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Rav Huna kimat laikra, when you get the following pasuk, he would cry. It says v'zavachta shlamit v'chalta sham. So Eved sheravu mitzapa lecho al shulchano, right? So when you come there, you should go ahead and eat. So you bring your karbanos, eat there, and the bayis eat your karbanos there. So a servant, right, whose master wants them to go ahead and eat on his table, right? We'll go ahead and distance up from them. The pasuk says, right? Why do I need your karbanos? Even HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to eat there. Nevertheless, with your behavior, why should I have your karbanos here? And Rabbi Ezra Kimatzai, we guess the following pasuk, even Bachi will cry, says, "V'lo yachlu achiv la'anais oso." Ki nivhalu mipanav. So it says over there, referring to by the brothers, right? They were not able to go ahead and to answer because they know what to say. So this is the tefachah of a man of flesh and blood, right? So to how much more the tefachah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Rabbi Ezra kimat like Rabachi when he came to the pasuk, he would cry. It says, "Vayomer Shmuel el Shol Lama." Here, guys, Tani la'alois oisi. Right? He said over there when Shol basically he brought the Shmuel back. So he brought him back. So Shmuel appeared and says, "Yeah, you ran. What do you want from me?" Right? Right? So if Shmuel Tzaddik, right, he was, he was scared of the din, right? Why are you calling me back? So to us, right, we should be scared. And Shmuel Ma'ir, where do you see that Shmuel? Scared. The pasuk says, "V'atomer Isha el Shol Elokim Ra'isi Olim." So the woman said to Shol, she says, "I see Olim." Right, Olim. So Olim Shreibashma. It's like two people coming up. So Chad Shmuel. The one was Shmuel, but Idach who was it? Was Shmuel? That was Shmuel. It was Moshe was with him. So Shmuel said, "Well, why did he bring Moshe Rabbeinu along with him?" So he said, "Dilma Chas Shalom Adina." Right? Perhaps I'm being called up to to the world. Right? Who knows what they call me? Maybe they call me to din. Right? The dinam is but Kumahadi. Right? The like the mills of the Chsid the Ba'arais the like Kamaita. Right? Come with me because there's nothing written in your Torah, right? You can testify on my behalf. You can be my star witness. That's that that there was nothing in your Torah that I did not fulfill. So we see that Shmuel was worried about din. If he was worried about din, we should be worried about din. Rabbi Ami Kimati Laikra, when Rabbi Ami got his pasuk, he would cry. It says, "Yitain the ofar piu ulai yesh tikva." Right? It says all after all was said and done, put dust in his mouth, right? or the destruction is from Eicha. So it says, right? So Amar Kulihai Ulai, and all destruction, all this suffering, and it's still only Ulai. Perhaps will be forgiven. Rabbi Yamiki Bachi, we got the pasuk. It says Bakshu Sedek Bakshu Anava Ulai Tisartru B'Yom Afashem. So it says, go ahead and seek out tzedek, righteousness, and seek out humility, and perhaps, right, perhaps you'll be saved on the day of Hashem's anger. So Amar Kulei Ulai, all the righteousness and all the humility, and still it's only Ulai. The pasuk you got this pasuk you would cry. It says, "Sinu rav avu toiv hatzigu b'shar mishpat Ulai yichanan Hashem." Okay, tzavakos, right? Once again, that hate wicked, right, and love goodness. Right, and establish mishpat in the shar, and nevertheless, hopefully, ulai HaKadosh Baruch Hu will find favor, right? Ulai. So, and Rav Yosef got to the Bachi cried. It says v'yesh nispa b'lei mishpat, and there are those who, I guess, who fall down, right? They get punished without judgment. So Amar mi'ikad azah b'lei zimnei, right? Are there people that go without judgment? They get killed before their time. In kiyad Rav Bibi Barabai. Because the Maisa of Rav Bibi Barabai, right? So the Maisa we were about to say that happened with Rav Bibi Barabai with the Malcham Avos. What happened? So Amar le l'shluchei. So this is the reason why he cried, because he was scared that people go without judgment, without their time. So Amar le l'shluchei. So one time the Malcham Avos said to his friend, Zil Aisili Miriam Megalda Seir Nashai. Go ahead and get me Miriam, right? The hairstylist, right? The Seir Nashai, the hair braider. So he went down to the world, took Miriam, killed her, right, and brought her back up. Yeah, that's what he did, boss, right? Miriam Megali Dardaki. He brought Miriam who raised children, not the Miriam, the hairdresser, the wrong Miriam. So oops, right? Exactly. Oops, right? Amalei, right? Amalei Miriam. So Amalei Anna Miriam Megali Seir. So he said. So somebody said Anna Miriam Megali. I told you to get Miriam the hairstylist. Amalei, yeah, okay, address. Okay, I'll go bring her back. So Amalei, no. Right? Since she's here, let's include her in the count. In other words, he wasn't supposed to go out and get her, and he brought her there anyways. So how are you able to go ahead and get her? So Avi Nakita Misra Biyade. She was holding like a long poker, right? The thing is used for the oven. The Haviska Shagar, and she put it into the oven, right? And what happened? And she was moving around the stuff in the oven, And shakalta vanachta agabi the karan. And basically the poker basically came, and then the burning metal came on her foot, and kadcha v'isra mazla. And therefore she was burnt, and her mazel was therefore like destroyed. It was torn up, and therefore since she had her mazel was a protector of Isin, and I brought her back. Samalei Rabbi Barabai, he says, "My God, Malacham Abbas, this is how you guys operate. You know what kind of? I'm going to call the, I'm going to call the feds on you guys. Who's looking over you guys? He's the Chur Shusa Lemid Hachi. Are you guys allowed to do this? Samalei, the pasuk says, "Like see the yesh nispa b'lo mishpat." Right? They're punishments without mishpat. Right? In other words, yeah. People can get punished without judgment, and therefore, unfortunately for this Miriam, the kindergarten teacher, she was taken even though without mishpat. So it says only a generation comes when the generation goes. In other words, but everything is exact, right? Everything is in its time. Samar Tarina Luhu Ana. So I take them those souls with me until the generation is done. And then I give them all to Duma, who is the other, right? He's like Duma was like in charge of Gehenna, right? So then I give to Duma. So now they don't go to Gehenna, they don't go to Duma yet. Rather, they stay until the rest of the generation catches up, and then they all go, they hang out. So what'd you do with her years, right? So what'd you do there? So if there's a certain Talmid Chacham, right, who is Demaver b'mileh, he's Maver midaisav, he's not makpid, he's very forgiving, then Masir Lohulei b'havi chilufei. And therefore, I give him those years, and therefore, it's a fair exchange for that generation. But we see that a person can be taken, and that was reason to cry. We'll stop here.